What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. I'm your host, Leon, and that's my host right there, Renee. Trying to get ready at the last minute. She asked me, she said, hold on, was my shirt crooked? But it was too late.
I know. You didn't even give me a chance. Now, it threw off my whoop whoop because I was too busy trying to make sure I look right.
Look, you should have been checking your shirt while I was checking my hat.
I mean, your hat's still crooked. I'm just, making sure I'm representing
Hey,
the
don't
brand.
do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Well, look, we're going to go ahead and get started. We ain't going to hold y'all too long with our conversation because we have a great guest today. Somebody I met at the Barber Expo in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Look, I heard this lady get on the stage and heard her passion and her talking. I was like, wow, I had to go to her table after she got down.
Blew you away, huh?
Yeah. So I went over there to her, hollered at her a little bit, tell her what I do besides barbering. Asked her, could she come on the show? And she said yes. So we locked it in.
Yeah. Well, listen, from what I've read of her and her bio, her credentials, her education, her schooling, it sounds like something that most other barbers should know about.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
Definitely a good thing.
Well, let's bring it on, Miss Kate Owens.
Woo! Should I do my whoop whoop now?
Yeah, do your whoop whoop. Go ahead.
Whoop whoop.
What's going on, Kate? How you doing?
Woo! Doing so good.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Renee and Leon. Appreciate it so much.
No problem. And you didn't say she took the time out. She's a Florida gal.
Oh, yeah. So let's say she's evacuated from, well, where you?
She found safe housing.
Yeah, she found safe housing. You could say, tell us where you at if you want to or not,
Sure. Our home base is right between Fort Myers and Naples, and we are in the hurricane cone for Hurricane Milton. So I was in evacuation zone 1, or A was the first one, and we evacuated, and we are on the other coast of Florida right now, safe and sound. And I won't let an opportunity get me by. I don't care if I'm evacuated. I have my computer and a great light from Amazon.
An amazing light from Amazon.
Look, I kept texting Kay. I was like, I know that the storm is coming. Are you still gonna do it? She's like, yeah, sure. And then she told me. I texted her again. I think it was this morning. And I was like, are you still ready?
You gave me a note.
See,
I'm going somewhere that got Wi-Fi.
See, if you want to, you would. You make it happen, right? She's a prime example.
Right. Yeah.
No excuses, ladies and gentlemen. No excuses.
So, Kate, so tell us, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background and where you grew up. I was going to ask you where you were from, Florida, but I'm going to let you tell it. Tell us a little bit about your background.
I am originally born and raised in a suburb outside of Boston, Marlborough, Massachusetts. I moved to Florida 20 years ago. My auntie asked me if I wanted to have a barber shop with her. And when I was on vacation with her in Florida, and I said yes, and I got off the plane and quit both of my jobs and walked right into hair school and signed up the day I got off the plane. And I ended up going to hair school, working for a little bit up north, and then moved down to Florida with her to open a barbershop.
Wait. Yeah, I'm like, wait, too. Okay. So did you have any aspirations of being a barber? And when she asked you that, did she know you wanted to do that? Or she just said, let's come and do this, and you said yes?
So I always remember, like, in high school, everybody saying, like, oh, I want to be this when I grow up, or I want to be that. And my parents were like throwing their hands up because they're like, what do you want to do? Do this, do that. And I was like, nah. I felt like everything seemed so boring. And the only thing I could think of that I wanted to be, and these were my 3 like tops. What I could be a mermaid. That sounded like a chill deal.
Right.
A movie star, that worked, or like some form of royalty sounded like a good gig. But I thinking of punching a clock and like doing a job every day seemed really not something I wanted to do. And I ended up becoming a waitress
Mm-hmm. Now I could picture that. You have a personality for that. I could see it.
Thank you. I loved it. I was a waitress because I didn't love high school. And I was just waiting tables and bartending and cocktail waitressing. My auntie is a huge part of my story. She is a smoking hot babe. She never had kids, and she was trying to make her way, get a big break in Hollywood. And it didn't happen. And she was trying to find her way. And a gentleman said to her, well, you love men and you love to talk. Why don't you be a barber? So she became a barber at 40. And
really?
Yeah. And I came to Florida to visit her, and she said, oh my gosh, honey, I made all this money, and you should really think about doing hair, and why don't we open something together? And I wasn't playing. I said, sure. And, got off the plane and quit my jobs and went to school, and my family had a fit. They said to her, why did you do this? You told her to quit her jobs and start a hair school. And she was like, I didn't know she was going to do it like the day she got off the plane.
Right.
Because I was a single mom. I was a young single mom. She said she thought I was going to wait till my son was in kindergarten to go to school.
She didn't know you were that ambitious.
I know. And she had to open a shop because I was coming.
Did you cut hair before at all, like prior to? Wow.
My mom would always say, why don't you do hair? And I was like, no, I don't like that. No, thanks. And one of the things I love to share anytime I get an opportunity is that I was the worst one in my class. The worst. I couldn't cut. I couldn't color. I couldn't, none of my friends would let me do anything on them. Like the only thing they let me do is hang out with them.
So I couldn't you were really there to get the license so you can work with your aunt.
Yes, but I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I thought it was playing with hair. And when I found out that it was really hard and that I wasn't good at it, it really beat me up. And it took me a long time. I worked for 3 years at a spa, and they charged a lot of money for these haircuts that I was making up. And I was barely getting by, but for me, I had no other choices. I just spent all this money on school. It was the last house on the block. And, the best thing happened to me was moving down to Florida and working at my auntie's barbershop. Because the most magical thing happened. I went from this spa that was so beautiful and had like music playing, and I show up at her shop and I was like, what's the landline? She goes, oh, I don't have one yet. I go, do we need lighting? She goes, yeah, you think? And it was rugged. But the most magical thing happened at that barbershop. I was cutting, head after head after head after head after head. And I found my guide. And once I found that guide, oh my gosh, sky was the limit. I was like, oh, if I hold my fingers like this, it makes a haircut like this. Oh my gosh. And then my career took off. And then that's when I really fell in love with this industry.
So how long did it actually take you to, when you say
learn how to cut hair?
Learn how to cut hair.
To learn how to cut hair and not leave crying?
Yeah.
5 years. 5 years. Really? Every bit of 5 years.
How was your very first client? Do you think, were they nice to you, or did they like it because they were like, she's so nice, she's so sweet? I love it, and they probably went somewhere else. You think they just kind of?
So it's interesting because these people would come back to me. So I
Wow.
really think I must have, and it is one of the gifts I have behind the chair, is that I can make people feel good while they're with me. They must have liked how I made them feel because they couldn't have liked how I made them look.
No matter what, just hair lopsided, but they left your chair the most beautiful person in the world, feeling so good.
Now, was it? Do you think it was your cuts were real bad or just okay?
Well, if you ever are on the road and you meet my coworker, Nina Brown, she went to school with me and she'll tell you. Because people say, oh, you probably weren't the worst. She's like, she
You were.
was. It was bad.
So what
I
did
just
you?
couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. It took me a while. I was a slow burn, some quickly, some slowly. I was slowly. And, I think for me, that was really good because once I got it, I fought so hard for it.
Yeah.
So it really meant a lot to me when I did find it and became really great at, this craft.
And that's good that you stuck with it, because most people who go to that type of schooling, right? Barber, beautician, esthetician, they've been doing it, right? They were doing it out of their kitchen, or, their grandmother taught them how, or mom taught them how to braid, relax, brother or uncle taught them how to cut hair. So they've been doing it for a while, unofficially, and so going into school, everything else, the cutting is the cutting to me would be the easier part, but the education side, as far as the, chemicals and dealing with all of those things, would be hard. So for you, it was like you were starting from scratch. It wasn't like you did, your hair, your mom's hair, prior to going in. So you had to learn to love it.
Absolutely.
So you said you moved from, where you moved from again?
Boston.
So when you moved there, dropped everything, quit your jobs to go with your aunt. Now you still had to have some kind of income besides that. Did you work part-time, anything that while you was cutting?
I would waitress, I would bartend, and I would cocktail waitress. But it's so strange because I found a way. That's one thing that I've never been afraid of, is I don't mind working hard. They make fun of me all the time at the nonprofit because I love to work, because a lot of what we do doesn't feel like work. And especially with this nonprofit, it doesn't feel like work to me anymore. But I just always would find a way.
So you did waiter, and when you was in Boston, then when you're in Florida, you did the same thing. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you mentioned your nonprofit, Sensory Safe Solution. How did you come about that?
So I'm the mother of 5 boys.
Oh, wow. 5 boys.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you did mention it. Yeah.
A bunch of boys. And I had my last one in 2013. And I thought for sure it was going to be a girl, because who has 5 boys? And it was boy number 5. Wow. And almost right away I could tell there was something different about him. I wish there was words that could describe it, but it was almost like right away I knew something was different about it. It was very stoic. I couldn't get a laugh out of him, and I can get a laugh out of any baby. And it was just different. And then as soon as he could sit up, he was rocking. And I said to my ex-husband, do you think that there's something going on? And he said, there ain't nothing wrong with that baby. I said, okay. I asked my mom. She said, you're crazy. I asked the doctor. She said, he makes eye contact. And as he got older, his life just got worse. And, so did mine. And so did everybody that was in the house. He was tantruming from the time he woke up until the time he went to sleep. I had to fight pretty hard to finally get to a place where they would give him the test that I thought it was. I would look at stuff all night long and the red flags, and I just felt like I knew. And I watched them give him the test, and within minutes they came over to me and they said, please have a seat. And they said, Miss Owens, your son has right under severe autism. He's considered disabled for the rest of his life. And it's like one of those moments of clarity that are etched in your heart. Felt like the world came out from under me. I knew nothing about disabilities. I knew nothing about autism. I knew nothing about accommodation, special needs. I knew nothing. And I felt like my life was over. I had my own business. My business was growing. It was big. It was, I felt impactful for the community, and we're in such a social industry. What will this look like? And for a while, I was really, really angry, and I was really isolated, and I felt really alone. And I wanted to know why it wasn't you. Why didn't your baby get autism? Why was it why was it mine? What? And someone that I really respect and said to me, why not you? So I really struggled with this diagnosis. And I remember calling my dad, and I was crying so hard I was drooling. And I said, Dad, he has autism. And he said, I want you to listen to me. Stop crying so you can hear me. And I thought this was going to be like the moment that my hockey coach of a dad says these kind words to me and tells me it's going to be okay. He did. It wasn't the way I wanted to hear it. He said, when you're done crying, I want you to go to the hospital, and I want you to find the sickest kid there, and I want you to see if that mom will trade with you for autism. And I said, you're such a jerk. And he said, I'm not done. Then you go to the cemetery and you see if a mom there wants to trade with you. And I thought he was horrible for saying those things, but I cannot tell you how many times I've dug in to those words. And on the worst day of autism, I would not trade for a second. When we got that diagnosis, they gave Waylon a 10% quality of life. We're at about 100. He had a 10% quality of life. The only way I can describe it is my baby was living like an animal. And from the stage, Leon, you heard me say, I didn't know if I wanted to stay alive anymore.
So 10% quality of life, what does that kind of mean exactly?
So he had no language. He was nonverbal. He could not tolerate even leaving our house. And he was super highly aggressive, but it was mainly targeted at me. So this baby, by then he was like 3 years old, is tantruming, screaming from the time he wakes up till the time he's going to bed. I'm covered in bite marks, scratch marks, bruises, kicks. I had scratches on my face, everything. Windows were broken out. My TV was smashed. He kicked out the windshield of my car.
Is this as he got older?
This was then.
Wow.
This was right after diagnosis. And I felt like this must be what a battered woman must feel like. Except I can't leave my baby.
Right.
I'm not leaving him. And in the middle of the night, one night, I made a decision. It didn't matter why this was us, why it happened to him, what I did. Is it because I was old? Is all those things? None of it mattered. What was I going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
So they gave me a fat stack of referrals to all these what's called interventions. And I signed him up for every single one. We did behavior therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, music therapy, physical therapy, equestrian therapy, speech therapy, art therapy, play therapy, pet therapy. We didn't even have a pet. If it said therapy and they would take him, his ass was there. And I tracked it. We were driving about 700 miles a week.
Wow.
To get him to all the places. And one of the therapies was 30 hours a week in home. And they told me, we're not here. We're not teaching your son anything. We're teaching you. You're going to be with him for the rest of your life. You need to know, not us, not him. And I was schooled by this therapy. And in 1 year, my baby went from a 10% quality of life to an 80% quality of life.
Wow.
He has not hushed since then. They call him the mayor. He is so funny, so smart, but he doesn't stop talking. I think he might be like his mother.
Look, so
Really?
tell me, how old? You said it took a while for you to get the diagnosis. That what you thought was it. How old was he when you got the diagnosis?
2 days before his third birthday.
2 days before third birthday. Now, so how does it tell me more about how did it make you feel once? See, you already had the sense that's what it was. How did it make you feel once you found out towards your husband and your mother and the doctors? How did you feel in that moment when you found out?
Well, my mom says it all the time. She says, you were right. You were right. She says, I'm sorry. You were right. And I didn't want to be right.
Right.
I
Of course, you don't want to be right.
I want to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So there was parts of me that did feel validated, but there's other parts that didn't want to be right.
Right.
But there's something about facing the truth and, standing toe to toe with what you're so afraid of, and, manning up and doing what had to be done. And I got to tell you, watching him learn how to talk, and when you learn how to ask someone for what you need, the aggressions go down because your communication goes up. So you're not frustrated like you were. He was having to manipulate the environment with his behavior. That was no more. He could say, drink, please. And I just watched this little personality come forth. And it's been one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking experiences of my life to be a mom of a child with disabilities.
So how did your husband handle that, the situation?
Not good. I've heard that a lot, is that sometimes dads have a harder time accepting, not my son.
Yeah.
Now, so he had a tougher time.
Why is it? I don't have children, but I do notice, and maybe because it's social media, right? And you're seeing and you're able to hear all of these stories from different people. But I just feel like in the last couple years, or maybe the last 10 years, a lot of kids are born with autism. Is it something? What is causing this? Is it hereditary, Or is it something that, is in our foods that we shouldn't be eating? Or it's something that's always been there and nobody's ever talked about it? They just medicated the kids because, back in our age, every kid had ADHD, right?
Yep.
No matter what,
Yep.
it's ADHD. Give them some Adderall,
Yep.
throw some
And
or,
to add to what you're saying, Renee, and it's mostly, I don't know if you noticed, but it's mostly boys. Mostly.
Oh,
it is mostly boys.
I have at least probably 5 younger ones in my family.
It is mostly boys. And I see it like watching vlogs and different things with people that I've been following for years that's gotten pregnant and had kids. And they're wondering why their kids are, they're just nonverbal, or, they're just leaving it up to, well, the doctor told me that eventually he'll come around. And it's like, okay.
Kick the door in. Kick the door in, get the services, and do whatever you have to do for early interventions because they're key. I love the questions that you guys asked, and I have some answers for you. 80% of autism diagnosis are genetically linked.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. The other 20% are environmental. And you said a list. And do we know specifically what the environmental causes are? No, they're not saying exactly, but the list goes on and on. So 80% of autism diagnosis are genetically linked. The other 20%, about 20%, are environmental. Leon, you mentioned that boys seem to have autism more. The reason being is boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. The reason being is the autism testing was made for boys.
Really?
Oh, yes. We are now leveling the playing field. So we're going to see a huge spike in female diagnosis. Now, Ms. Renee, you mentioned that it seems like diagnoses are getting more. So in 2013, when my baby was born, the CDC reported 1 in 155 children were diagnosed with autism. 1 in 155. A year ago, in 2023, and it's still the CDC report for now, 2024, the report is 1 in 36. 8-year-olds are diagnosed with autism. But wait, there's more. Now that we're leveling the playing field and we're going to see more female diagnosis, what do you think that number is going to look like?
1 in 15?
I wish it was that. And they are predicting 1 in 11 will be diagnosed with autism in the near future.
What were we doing? So do you think parents in our generation was ignoring the signs, or, we just medicated them, or it's like, just let them be. The boy is just rough. You know what I mean? The girl's rough. And just.
Well, if you think about it, in 2013, when I had my last baby, it was 1 in 155. So if you go back to when I was having, my first one, 1998, my gosh, I'll do the research and see what the CDC reported. I guarantee you it was nowhere near 1 in 155.
Which means
there is something.
So
yes, it's
in our food.
I heard everything you said about I'm pretty sure you've done some investigations or.
Oh, it sounds like she is just on it, and I love it.
But have you ever heard of the documentary, The Truth About Vaccines?
Of course. I don't live under a rock. Of course.
No.
That was,
a lot of people haven't heard about it.
so,
I hang around people who don't look at stuff I look at.
Listen, I look at all the stuff. And my co-curriculum writer, our autism specialist, this woman loves school. So when I'm staying up at night watching trash reality shows, she's reading research papers about autism. What I can tell you is, everyone was hollering, it's vaccines. They said no. So for a while, we said no. Now it's back in the forefront again. But there's so many other things too. There's genetics. There's
Yeah.
links with older, older maternal factors, older paternal factors, Diet Coke, links to Diet
Is it the
Coke,
red
links to
dye?
Tylenol, red dye, what we eat, what we drink, what's in our water, what's in our air. It goes on and on. It goes on and on.
It's so weird because you think about a long time ago, like things changed dramatically, right? Because there was Coke back then. There was cereal back then.
Yes.
What happened between then and now?
Who knows? I don't know. I can give you the statistics, but there is research going on all the time about what's causing it. They say a lot of times too, now there's a gut connection, something in the gut that contributes to autism. I mean, we could spend 5 podcasts discussing
Right.
all of the things.
Mhm.
I just knew the things that I was seeing in our industry. I couldn't sit back anymore and watch.
Absolutely, because I'm seeing it happen to the healthiest of the healthy, right? So it's not like, okay, well, she ate bad and I see her eating at Bojangles and all the places throughout her pregnancy, and that's why it happened. But no, I've seen it with people who work out, throughout their whole pregnancy and ate very clean and did all the things that I wish I probably could live that great lifestyle too. And
Me too.
it still happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So with all that, so his autism led
Mm-hmm.
you to create the sensory safe.
Right. How did we get here?
What take us through those steps?
So, like I said, Waylon's life got great, which meant my life got great. And I was finally out of survival mode and I could exhale. And I looked around and none of his peers looked like my baby. Now, I'm raised in a barber shop. My baby has a tight fade. He has an edged in hard part and he has a pompadour. My baby's looking fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking around and I'm noticing that kids don't have haircuts or the haircuts they're like that. So I said to a mom, I was like, oh, hey, I would love to take care of you and your daughter. Here's my card. You can come to my shop. It's a safe place. And she was like, that's my son. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'll take care of you and your son. His hair is beautiful. And she said, no, thank you. We got kicked out of a shop. I'm not bringing him back. And I was like, okay. So the next family I saw, this was a haircut that really needed help. So, a haircut that you see, maybe, you're in the airport, you're in Home Depot, and it literally curls your toes. And
All
you
the time.
And you
My
want
daughters get on me all the time.
You want to grab your thinning shears, like your hands shaking.
Yeah.
It was like that. I was like, I am going to help these people. I gave her my card and I said, please come to my shop. It's a safe place. I'm a mom of a child with autism, please. And she started crying. She said, I can't do that to him again. I said, do what? She said, it took 4 of us to hold him down and he didn't stop crying about it for 3 months.
Mm.
I was like, I was trying to figure out, okay, this industry that I love so much, and now my new community that I'm part of, y'all don't chill? Y'all don't know each other? Y'all don't even like each other? What's up with that? So my friend, the first family that I offered help to that little guy had hair down his backside. I thought it was a girl. The next time I saw him, I started to cry. And I said, what happened? What happened? And the therapist that was working with us said, she smiled and like elbowed me. She said, Kate, you didn't know? That's the official haircut of autism. They shaved his head. Hair down his back, and then shaved his head. And that's the official haircut of autism?
Wow.
That's the best. That's the best my people can do. That's the best we can do. Wrong. And I said, no more. Not in little baby Bonita Springs, Florida. Is that going to be the official haircut? No.
So they called it the official haircut because of just cutting it down and getting over with. No line, no fade, no edge up, anything like that.
No, nothing.
Right.
Basic.
Mm-hmm.
The most basic haircut you could ever give anybody. Actually, it makes me ill because I think of like, I wonder what number they use on a sheep. A number one? Is that what they do? A number one all over? Yeah, okay. Those kids and those families deserved better. So we opened up my shop. We had sensory safe Sundays. I said, who's with me? And some of the most beautiful stylists and barbers I've ever met, these young, right out of school, don't even know to be scared. Put me in. I want to do it. And I'll tell you what, you guys, it went off without a hitch. We were gangbusters busy, and people were driving 3 hours one way to cut a person's hair whose head was this big. 3 hours. So that's really, if you think about it, 7 hours for a family that's catering and accommodating for someone that has special needs. There is something so wrong with that. So long story short, I didn't like how they were doing Waylon at school. Mm-hmm. And I ended up suing my school district. I won. They changed a district policy because of Waylon. I love that they changed that. I got loud because that's great that you're going to fix it for Waylon, because I could throw some money at an attorney, but I want to talk about all the kids that are coming behind him, and I want to know what you guys are going to say about it. So I just began advocating at a high level. I was invited to the capital of Florida, to Tallahassee, and I got up there and I was like, wow, this is where I want to be. This is where real change happens on a high level. I want this. I want to be part of this. I want to make sure everyone gets what they deserve, no matter what. And that day I met my autism specialist and my curriculum writer up there. Mm-hmm. And on the 5-hour ride home, I heard a still small voice that asked me, had I done enough in my industry yet before I go up to the Capitol? And the answer was no. So I got with her. I said, Christine, there is no curriculum to teach barbers, stylists, and anyone in a spa how to accommodate appropriately for anyone on the spectrum. She said, come on, Kate. Sure there is. I said, there isn't. There's one sentence in our books. It says you may have a guest with disabilities, you will have to make accommodations.
Of course.
That's not enough. So she said, tell me what other people in your industry are teaching about cutting individuals with autism, sensory processing, related disabilities, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, OCD, any of the dementia, Alzheimer's, any of those. Tell me what others in your industry are teaching. I said, Christine, there isn't any. Again, she rolled her eyes. checked, and there wasn't any. So we wrote a curriculum. We wrote a 2-hour curriculum to educate barbers, stylists, and anyone in the beauty world how to appropriately accommodate and understand autism and sensory processing on a higher level. Anything you don't know about may seem scary.
Yeah.
But knowledge will kill that fear anytime. So our course is 2 hours. The first hour of the course is about understanding the why behind what you're going to do to make that guest feel comfortable. And the second part is all the strategies on how to have a service with success for the guest. But I'm thinking about the barber too.
Yeah.
Because I've been the barber with sweat dripping down me, everybody in the shop staring at myself and my guest and their dad, while dad says, I'll hold him, cut. Who taught us what to do? Who do I listen to? Dad's saying, cut. This little person is literally fighting for their lives. I look to my boss, cut. And I use 8-inch shears. I truly love the barbering world. So, it's not really safe for any of us.
Yeah.
And how do you think the person feels watching it? Another guest. They don't feel good.
Mhm.
The barber next to you doesn't feel good. None of it is creating an environment of trust, of safety, of anywhere that person would ever want to come back to.
Right.
It's just creating trauma for everybody involved.
So what is the technique? So if a kid came in there with autism, that's someone you've never met before,
Mhm.
and they do act out, and they're
Mhm.
acting out, and they come in there, what is the technique or the skills that you use to calm them down for them to get a good haircut?
So that's a great question. Typically, when people come to my shop, they know that we know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. So the
Mhm.
first thing is we ask that family to fill out a questionnaire first.
Okay.
So I know if something like a green cup is going to trigger my new friend, and that's the only thing I don't need to have around is a green cup, and don't turn on the blow dryer. If I know those two things, easy. Now, if a guest comes in, maybe mom's in denial, but when you take our course, you're going to be able to visually see if someone's in distress and is showing sensory overload.
Mhm.
So maybe something you do is immediately take out a distract pack. And that's something that we teach about in our course. And maybe taking them into a quiet room, if
Okay. I was
there is
gonna
one.
say, you have little, rooms in your studio where
No,
you
we do have suites,
can.
but for some, here's one thing. If you've met one guest with autism, you've only met one guest with autism. Every person with autism is so different. An individual may love being in a little suite, but for another individual, that could be so triggering. So you have to be, you have to think on your feet. So if the barber shop is bumping, this person's having a hard time, maybe you take them outside because it's quiet out there and you cut hair right out there. If that's all it takes to have a successful service, that's an accommodation. That's us shifting the way we do things to make someone else more comfortable. And I don't know if we do that enough behind the chair.
Yeah.
So how long
And
have you go ahead.
go ahead. You first.
I was gonna ask you, how long have you had the sensory safe solution, the barber? And so is that so did you open up a separate barbershop and naming that, or that's just a name that you added on?
So I have a salon in Bonita Springs. It's a hybrid. So I have suites, chairs, hourly, commission, the whole shebang. And
Okay.
it's 6,000 square feet.
Okay.
But Sundays are quiet. So I have a couple different stylists that will be doing sensory cutting on Sundays. We have been doing that and providing that for the community for 6 years.
Okay.
Now, when we wrote the curriculum, we wrote it in June of 2023. And we took 5 years and 5,000 hours worth of sensory cutting to write that curriculum, along with professionals from the autism world. So our first class that we taught was September of 2023.
Oh, wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
How many people were in attendance to that class?
I think maybe like 20.
They probably just didn't, a lot of people really didn't know, right?
Well, it's interesting. It was a kids salon. So they were so grateful for any way that we could help them.
That's smart, a kids salon.
But really, it's any barbershop, it's any salon that you're going to see this, especially if they're predicting 1 in 11.
Right. I'm looking here. It says you have 1,709 providers, 18. You can tell me if these numbers are correct. 18 national and regional educators in 30 states, 4 countries.
So the website has a hard time keeping up with me.
Right. I figured that.
We're at 1,700 and I think 65 sensory safe certified providers throughout the country. We're in 30 states. We have 25 regional educators, and we're in 4 countries.
Okay.
So
in just over a year.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So how does one become an educator?
So the first thing you have to do is you have to become sensory safe certified. You take our 2-hour course, you become a sensory safe provider, and you make sure that you believe in what we believe. And we believe that everybody deserves dignity and respect, that we don't allow any restraints, and that we utilize knowledge to make the service safer, better, more successful, and everyone leaves happy. So you sit through that class, you make sure you believe what we believe, and then you sign up for our regional training. We have them 3 times a year in Southwest Florida, and it is 3 days, and it is not easy. And, you know, I love these individuals that I meet, and they think it's going to be real easy when they show up. And a lot of the curriculum are things that we're not used to talking about. Things like echolalia, perseverative thinking, executive functioning, all those things. We break down how someone with autism, all those things are impacted. Because when we teach, a barber and a stylist has to understand the why. Why is somebody rocking? Why is somebody flapping? And that it's nothing to be afraid of. So the 3 days is pretty intense, and you get educated with us, and then you audition, and then you can be an educator for us.
Go ahead, Renee.
Right. With your course, you talked about, each of your barbers or your stylists, they provide the customer with a questionnaire, right? Is that part, do you provide that in that when they take your course, or do you give them, I don't know if there's a template that comes with it, or you kind of give them your knowledge from that questionnaire and how successful it's been for them to create their own, or is that kind of part of it?
So anybody that's certified with us gets a certificate that they can display. They get a decal for their window, and they get a web badge. And then they're also listed on our website so families can find a safe space. And then they get emailed templates for success. So they'll get best practices, they'll get questionnaire, they get a before, during, and after that goes out to parents and caregivers. They'll also get action steps for success for behind the chair. They'll get an example of an ISP. And what else? They'll also get a badge that they're a sensory safe barber or a sensory safe stylist. And I tell them all, take what you like and leave the rest. I did the hard work. Make it yours. This is what works for us at my shop. It might not work perfect like that for you. So I did the hard work. Take what you like, make it your own. They're editable documents, but the bones of it is there. So if you don't like that we don't charge a sensory cut for a cancellation, then you take that off. Those are our systems and structures.
So, in Barber, and I don't know. So did you go to actually cosmetology school and learn barbering?
Okay. I went to cosmetology school, but learned how to cut hair as a barber. I'm
Right.
a unicorn.
Yeah, that's what most women do. So in barbering, when you go to check your test, you have to have a physical person to do the haircut on, razor, and all that.
I did too.
Okay, you did too. So okay.
I had a practical.
Right. I ain't know too much about the cosmetology. So in your course, in your teaching, do they have to cut a physical, somebody with autism, to actually know how it feels to do that, go through that process? Or it's just paperwork and then there?
That sounds like something when they have to go to Florida and take that hard, the training there.
Yeah.
So I kind of hit on this. And this was a hill that I was willing to die on when we were writing this course. If you've met one person with autism, you've only met one person with autism. If you know how to cut hair, cutting someone's hair with autism, hair is hair. So what's different about a sensory cut is the way you approach it, the way you prep for it. And I was like, under no circumstances will we ever put someone up on a stage and cut their hair like they're at the zoo. Absolutely not. And if you think about it, individuals with autism sometimes have a harder time with what? Crowds, noisy places, a lot of people. That doesn't sound like something that would be great for someone with autism. So to help really have barbers and stylists get a visual, we did different videos. And that's part of the curriculum. So some of the videos will show some unconventional approaches. Some videos will show a stylist using choices and breaks. Another video will show a stylist or a barber counting. I'll do 2 cuts, then I'm going to give you 2 goldfish. And that, I think, is so much more valuable than watching a haircut, because how one person might react is not how another person may react. But what we give you in the curriculum is how the medical field, like a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, a behavior analyst, they would do the things that I'm teaching barbers and stylists on ways to make these experiences to create trust, not trauma.
I like that idea. Now,
Thanks.
I mean, now that you put it into perspective, yeah. I
Yeah.
wouldn't wanna be on- I don't have autism, but I don't want to be on the stage while you cut my hair either. So,
Wouldn't it be weird? Who do you look at?
right. Why are you staring at me for so long?
But I could think that it's never been part of the curriculum for me. I do not find it necessary.
The way
Because I can teach you accommodations more than I can teach you a number 2 with scissors on the top on somebody that has autism. The curriculum is far more valuable than that.
the way you explain that, yeah, I can see this.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want to be in that predicament.
Also, Leon, when you cut my hair, I might be a better client if you had snacks. Like the whole, once you you might get
What?
What are your preferred snacks, Miss Renee? Leon, take notes.
Yeah,
What do you love to drink? I love a Diet Coke.
No, she can't have
that.
Hey, Kate, she can't have the drinks that she love to drink.
Well, she's not cutting. Yes, she can.
Exactly. He can't have the drinks I love to drink.
Oh, you have to bring
But
it in
he
your
can offer them.
There you go.
So look, speaking of that, that's a good segue. So me and you off camera, on the phone conversation, we spoke about you going through addiction and alcoholism. Did you say that?
Yeah.
So what period of time through all this, learning about your son and you becoming a barber, where was that? Where was that in that period of time?
So thank you so much for asking that. I thank God all the time that my last baby, my Waylon with autism, I'm so grateful he was the last and not the first.
Yeah.
Because had he been the first, the ending would not have been so sweet. I would have been sitting on a bar stool telling you, poor me, while someone else had him. I ended up getting sober. I've been clean and sober for almost 17 years. I ended up getting sober when I was 27.
Yes.
And it was like, so I don't want to say like, it was my bottom. It wasn't a low bottom compared to other people, but I don't need to compare my bottom to anybody else's.
Right.
I decided to get off that train because I could see what the future was holding for me. I knew that if I kept on, I was going to lose my kids. I was going to lose my driver's license. I was going to lose my cutting license. I was going to lose everything. And I rolled the dice enough times that I wasn't willing to keep tempting fate like that. And I decided to get off the elevator. And it was the best thing I ever did. And when I went into recovery, they told me that this is going to be a life beyond your wildest dreams. So I wrote down my dreams. And in 2 years, I had to make up new dreams because all of them came true.
Wow.
I would sit on a bar stool and say, I want to be a salon owner. And I put, the drinking and the drugs down, and I was a salon owner within 2 years. It was like the drugs and alcohol, I felt like were a shade over my light.
Yeah, they were blocking your blessings.
Oh, they talk about it in the Bible. And when that came off of me and those chains were broken, look out. I opened my shop. I grew it really big. I was able to stay clean and sober with, my baby's diagnosis. I've gone
Which is amazing because that to me, would drive somebody who was in your situation back to doing what you were doing.
So you had asked about my ex-husband. That's why he's my ex-husband. He didn't stay sober after that diagnosis.
He couldn't
He
stay
didn't.
the course.
And I did, and I've made it through a lot of things that I said, if this ever happens, I'm going to have to drink. You know, if I lose my dad, how am I going to stay sober? I lost my dad. And 6 weeks later, I buried my stepmother, his wife. And I stayed sober. 6 months later, my stepsister, I stayed sober. And as long as I stay sober, and my question is, what can I do for you? How can I serve other people? And suit up and show up when you say, can you be on a podcast, even though you evacuated? Yes, I can. And I just serve, stay sober, and do the next right thing. Everything's going to be great. It already is. It already is.
What led you to drugs and alcohol? How did you get there? Why do you think
I never felt like I fit in. I never felt like I was skinny enough, pretty enough, smart enough, fun enough. I felt like everyone else got the blueprint or like the rules, and I didn't get it. So I didn't feel like I was comfortable in my own skin until I picked up a drink. And then once that started doing its trick, I remember when the booze started to work, and I was like, I'm a size 4. I don't care if you like me. Oh, look how pretty I am. It was courage, liquid courage. And now that I've done the work, I can be that without anything, which is amazing, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Do you still feel like it's a constant battle, or are you at that point where it's like, you know what? Don't worry about me. I got this.
Always, don't worry about me. I got this. Because I never want to live that life like that again. I never want to not love myself again. I never want to not show up for my family again. Like, there isn't anything. I could sit here, everybody could be drinking and partying, and it doesn't bother me at all. A lot of people, I'll be out, some of these after parties and pre-parties, everybody's drinking and carrying on, and they'll say to me, oh my gosh, can I get you a drink? I go, I don't drink. They're like, you're not drinking? And I'm like, no. And I'm having more fun than them.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend who's sober, and she's always the first one on the dance floor. And I'm like, girl.
Right? Right?
Let me get a drink first. Let me get the courage.
And that's okay.
So how long has your father been gone?
He's been gone for 4 years.
4 years.
And he is the driving force behind the sensory safe solution. I used his life insurance money to pay for the lawyer to sue my school district. And I was so scared. And I thought, I can't do something crazy like this without my dad. Because he was I just lost my light.
Oh, no.
Sorry, guys.
You're still good. The light is still good for you.
You're still good.
Okay. So I didn't know how I was going to sue a school system without my dad. He would be the one to say either, Kate, cut it out, or go get him. And I was terrified, and I used his life insurance money for that lawsuit. That lawsuit got me to the Capitol. The Capitol got me to the sensory safe solution curriculum. And I feel like he's been moving mountains for me from the other side. I really do.
He knew.
So
I really believe that.
He knew.
what would you think he would say now to see you now?
I hope he's super proud because he left a huge legacy. He helped a lot of people and he really impacted his community. He served his community. He was a they called him a giant in the hockey world.
Mhm.
I hope he's proud, but I can't leave this earth until I've left my mark on our industry and maybe the autism world too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty sure he's proud of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just him, kind of when you were telling the story about you were wanting for him to kind of give you some sort of cheer or hockey, feedback. And then how powerful he told you to, go to someone in the hospital whose child is really sick. Go to a cemetery. I mean, that's powerful right there because you don't think about that. It's always me, me, me. Why is this happening to me? And you don't think others have it worse than I do.
Right. And he was so tough like that, a hockey coach and all that. And he was a tough guy. And I really think a lot of the way I work, the way I move, the way I parent, everybody always says it's so good that your dad was a hockey coach. You can tell with all those boys.
Yeah. And your passion, how your son drove you, to, be an advocate for him and many other children with the same needs.
Yeah.
He's proud of you.
I hope. I believe I know he is. And I get these little glimpses of him and I can tell my team is just cheering me on from up there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They
Right.
definitely are.
Awesome. That's awesome. Like
Thanks.
I seen you won an award in May. I think it was May.
Which time? No, just kidding.
I was looking for more. I said, I know she probably won more than this. What is it? Barber Grammy? The Barber Grammys or something? And was it
oh wow.
So now I didn't know I was getting that award.
Mm-hmm.
I got Humanitarian of the Year.
That's what it was, Humanitarian of the Year. Mm-hmm.
At the Barber Grammys, I had no idea I was getting that. I just knew that I was going to the Grammys. And then an hour before, Jay Majors called me and said, have your acceptance speech ready. And I was like, Jay, you're too busy. I'm not getting an award. He said, get your speech ready. And then hung up. And I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know anything. And it was the first award of the night. And I was floored. Wow. Have you guys ever seen your face on a Jumbotron?
No. Don't think
when my face went up there, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it.
That's
amazing. Kate, me knowing you for a short period of time, did you really need to get a speech together? Because I don't think you needed a speech.
Exactly.
You have it right there in your heart.
You will never see me read off a piece of paper, ever. I just had to get my thoughts together.
Right.
And you know what? I forgot to mention my dad.
I was just about to ask you about that too.
But I've been working on my next acceptance speech. Wherever they say you're getting an award, I got one heck of a speech ready.
Right. Matter of fact, well, I ain't gonna tell you what to do, but I would say start it off with your dad.
I am absolutely gonna. And my brother and I, we talk all the time and we say, oh, my dad's name was Wes. So I say, oh, a Wessyism. Like he had these sayings that he just said them over. And, when he was alive, we were like, yeah, we know. We
Yeah.
did the same thing. But he told those to his players. He told those things to the guys that worked for him. He told them to all of us kids. And those were like, those little isms that he would say to me are ingrained now. So I'm going to drop those nuggets at my next acceptance speech.
Right. So what's the next thing for you? Is it you have anything else you plan on putting together?
Oh, absolutely. My goal is 700,000.
700,000 what?
That's how many barbers and stylists are in the country.
To get everybody trained. I'm here for it. I just don't cut hair, but I'm here for it. I'm cheering her on.
I love it. Guess what? You can be an ambassador.
I love that.
Please come get certified. And you know who I'm really leaning into? I'm really leaning into these students because that's the future of our industry. And those are the kids, or those are the young adults. I hate to say kids now that I'm old. Those are the young adults that autism has been part of their life, because those are like the 1 in 36.
Oh, yeah.
They did have a kid in their classroom. They do know that that accommodations are necessary. So I'm digging in to our future, and I want to get as many students certified as possible.
That's amazing.
Thank you. We have a grant that allows us to certify students for free. So I just have to get a school owner to call me back or answer my email, and we're coming and we certify the whole school.
Really?
So
that's good.
And if I could leave anything behind, I want to leave our industry safer for my Waylon and safer for the 5 in your family, Leon. And I just want it to be a safer place for everyone.
Right. So how do you go about, I guess, getting in touch with, so you get in touch with barber schools around the country? You do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I meet them. I'll have a student reach out to me. If a student says, hey, I want to get certified, I say, heck yeah, even better. Let me come certify your whole school. Who's the director? Give me their phone number. Give me their email. And sometimes I'll just, be bored. So I just call and email schools.
Absolutely. Now, are you on TikTok? And any other social media out of IG?
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm gonna be coming to a TikTok near you soon, and our website.
Amazing. Because I definitely think, you reaching your 700,000 goal, I think TikTok will get you there very fast.
Ooh, okay, great. I'll do that tonight.
Yeah.
Well, this was good.
I know.
Good.
This is amazing.
I knew it was going to be a good one when I first heard you speak.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Good. So what would you say to an upcoming barber?
Don't be afraid to work hard. Don't say no to any opportunity that you get for continuing education. Go to every expo, go to every show, and definitely get sensory safe certified so you can be fully inclusive for anyone that walks in the door for you.
I love that.
Ta-da!
Well, look, I know that I hope everything is safe with you and out there in Florida. I hope everything goes well with this hurricane that's coming. Glad you're in a safe place.
Yes, and we appreciate you still logging on and joining us, even state of emergency.
You better believe it. I've been watching my family. They've been peeking through the door like, is she done yet?
Well, I'm glad you took out the time.
Yes.
And look,
It's an absolute honor. So
Okay.
thank you.
And look, stay on for a minute after we end this.
Okay.
All right, there you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward podcast. And remember, seize the opportunity to grasp your dreams.